Thanks for joining us on Weekly News Highlights. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. Let's recap the week with keywords. President Yoon Suk-yeol appeared at hearings of his own impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court this week, the first time for any South Korean leader to do so. He defended himself and his December 3rd martial law order. Donald Trump was officially sworn in as the 47th President of the United States on Monday. Vowing a golden age for America, he once again pledged to put America first. The South Korean economy expanded by 2% in 2024, which is far below the earlier forecast by the Bank of Korea because of slowing export growth and sluggish domestic demand. The third and fourth hearings for President Yoon Suk-yeol took place this week, where he was accompanied by a key figure into the December 3rd martial law order. That is ex-Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun, who shielded the troubled leader as a witness. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young starts us off.
Tensions ran high as President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial resumed, as former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun testified as the first witness, vehemently defending Yoon's martial law on December 3rd that shook the nation. The Constitutional Court on Thursday held a fourth trial hearing on Yoon's impeachment, which the president himself attended. The first of 10 witnesses approved by the court, Kim is one of the key figures implicated in planning and executing the martial law. Considered Yoon's right-hand man, Kim initially said he'd take responsibility for the chaos that ensued. His loyalty appeared intact. Kim at first refused to respond to the National Assembly's impeachment panel, prompting an abrupt break.
If I proceed with responding to the other side, there is a significant risk that the facts may be distorted. Therefore, I would like to now decline to take part in the witness questioning.
Questions fired by both the president's lawyers and the National Assembly. Much attention was on the planning and execution of martial law, as the National Assembly side says it disrupted the country's constitutional order and that a formal cabinet meeting was not held to legitimize it. First, regarding the legality of declaring martial law, the former defense minister said Yoon had kept to proper procedures of holding a cabinet meeting beforehand, saying that a copy of the martial law declaration was distributed to cabinet members. Also, Kim said he had composed a controversial note that the finance minister had received, ordering the preparation of a budget for an emergency legislative body, presumably to replace the elected National Assembly. This came after President Yoon initially said he could not remember whether he wrote the note, before recently denying that he had. Questions also focused on the martial law proclamation, which included a ban on political activities, one of the Assembly's grounds for impeaching Yoon. Kim claimed he typed up the document, but couldn't answer which word processor he used. As the president himself questioned his former minister, Yoon appeared to emphasize that he'd considered the martial law proclamation unrealistic and ineffective. The president also stated that his martial law had not failed, but ended quicker than expected, as he had ordered soldiers to withdraw once the National Assembly voted to lift the order. Through his testimony, Kim appeared to reinforce Yoon's position that martial law was declared to uphold the constitutional order, prompted by the opposition-led parliament's efforts to impeach incumbent officials, and thwart effective governance and budget execution.
As the trial proceeds, the president plans to attend all future hearings scheduled till February 13th. This would allow him to directly question and challenge witnesses in the courtroom.
Meanwhile, the Constitutional Court says it has acquired investigation transcripts from individuals involved in the martial law incident. It has also secured classified documents related to the National Election Commission and agreed to call in an intelligence official related to the matter as a witness to the trial. This suggests the court will examine claims from Yoon's side that alleged election fraud was a major reason for declaring martial law. The Assembly's panel has objected to including election fraud suspicion in the trial.
Recklessly asserting baseless theories of election fraud appears to be an attempt to delay the proceedings and undermine trust in the electoral system. Such actions should be appropriately restrained.
The fifth hearing will be held after the Lunar New Year holiday on February 4th with 3 witnesses to testify. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
As President Donald Trump took office as the 47th leader of the United States, the world has been bracing for the return of his America First foreign policy. Experts have brought up various concerns related to tariffs, trade wars, and potentially a high-stakes deal with North Korea that could undermine South Korea's security. We focus on the challenges and opportunities for Seoul amid its domestic political crisis. For this, we have our Oh Soo-young here in the studio. Welcome back, Soo-young.
Hi, Tammy. It's great to be here again.
So, Soo-young, there's been concern that South Korea is unable to fully engage with the Trump administration due to President Yoon Suk-yeol's absence from his duties following the martial law decree. Tell us more.
Yes, Tammy, I think the lack of top-level interaction does affect our diplomacy early in the game, particularly as during Trump's first term, he didn't have much affection for the then Moon Jae-in government, which was considered too close to Beijing for Washington's comfort and was also more focused on peace with North Korea than upholding the South Korea-US alliance, according to observers. Now with Trump back and ready to revise trade agreements, impose tariffs and demand that allies pay more towards security cooperation, it's a worrying time for America's allies and partners like South Korea. Still, there's been hope that in recent years, Seoul's strategic value has arguably increased as an economic and cultural powerhouse, but moreover, a producer of core technologies and as a liberal democracy.
South Korea should adopt a tailored strategy that aligns with the transactional nature of the Trump administration, rather than its usual abstract rhetoric about the strength of the alliance. It is essential to highlight areas where South Korea excels and offers tangible benefits, such as semiconductors, shipbuilding, defense industries, large-scale investments in the United States, and its role in countering China.
Then, Soo-young, what do you think will be Trump's approach to the Indo-Pacific region, and what would it mean for us, South Korea?
Well, particularly in this part of the world, Tammy, the US is highly focused on outcompeting China. That's economically, technologically, and militarily, all of which are actually now interconnected under the broad framework of security. That means increasing US prowess in all domains, but also working with allies and partners.
I would expect the Trump administration to lean on allies in East Asia, but to put much greater focus on hard power. And so the way it might lean on those allies could express itself in periods of tension when, for example, it complains about woeful underspending on defense among some of our key allies. And for that reason, I would imagine that an alliance-based approach remains in the forefront, but a bigger focus on hard power capabilities is kind of characteristic of where Trump might go.
Now, President Trump in his first term has been a key driver of so-called minilaterals, such as the Quad with Japan, India and Australia, and AUKUS with Australia and the UK. South Korea has recently moved towards joining the second pillar of AUKUS, which is about technological cooperation in cutting-edge areas, and it's also participated in some Quad Plus initiatives. But there have been question marks around the future of initiatives formed under the Biden administration, such as the South Korea-US-Japan trilateral cooperation. Still, experts say Washington wouldn't necessarily scrap partnerships if they're aligned with US interests.
I think the trilateral Tokyo, Seoul, Washington format is one that has bipartisan support in the US. This was something that, for example, Deputy Secretary of State Kirk Campbell really pushed forward an Indo-Pacific hand, and which was widely applauded and lauded by Republicans. So I would expect that remains a point of emphasis for the U.S.
Rose suggested Indo-Pacific partners and allies cooperate more with European nations, perhaps through the defense industry.
South Korea's played a major role here in Europe, both in foreign military sales and also in the provision via the United States of artillery to Ukraine. Moreover, there might be the frontiers of technology and innovation type of cooperations that are possible between leading European and Indo-Pacific research institutes, universities, in cutting-edge technologies. All of that, I think, the U.S. would welcome, would even foster, and would help us forge a strong front on the Eurasian landmass against this axis of revisionists led by the Chinese with their junior partner, the Russians, but also the Iranians and the North Koreans that has formed in past years. So,
Soo-young, of course, we have to talk about North Korea, whether we'll see a revival of Trump-Kim bromance and what that means for South Korea.
Right. Experts say that there is a fair chance of President Trump reviving talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and even striking a so-called small deal with the regime. That's despite the breakdown of their talks in Hanoi in 2019, where Trump requested Kim close down all of the North's nuclear facilities. Washington's former special envoy to the six-party talks, Joseph DeTrani, says the possibility of lifting economic sanctions could draw Kim back to the table.
In regards to what sort of a process could be used to better engage with North Korea, well, I think we learned from Hanoi that the Libya model, where we expect North Korea to put everything on the table, is unrealistic. It's not going to happen. And I think we knew this from the six-party talks with North Korea going back to 2005 with the joint statement. It's actions for actions. As North Korea gets certain benefits, they will start to dismantle their nuclear weapons programs.
Amid concerns over Trump officials referring to North Korea as a nuclear state, DeTrani said it's highly unlikely the foreign policy establishment in Washington would ever accept Pyongyang's nuclear program, and that the South Korea-US alliance will likely remain robust due to the multiple challenges they face together. However, to move forward, experts do agree that Seoul's domestic situation needs to stabilize.
South Korea must demonstrate its resilience in overcoming the current polycrisis to the international community. On contentious bilateral issues, negotiations with Washington should be approached with a strong resolve.
So there will be challenges, but hopefully opportunities for the alliance as well. Thank you, Soo-young, for the coverage today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Donald Trump officially returned to the White House as the 47th President of the United States. He declared a new golden age for his country on the Inauguration Day. Our Kim Jong-sil has more.
And repeat after. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend. Preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States. So help me God. So help me God.
Donald Trump has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States, marking the beginning of a new chapter in American leadership. Trump's inaugural address set the tone for his next 4 years, echoing the core message of his first term, America First.
The golden age of America begins right now. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
Shortly after his inauguration, the White House unveiled a revamped website with the bold declaration, "America is back," promising to fight for a stronger, safer, and more prosperous nation. Key priorities for Trump's second term include securing the border and reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, which requires certain asylum seekers to stay in Mexico while their cases are processed in U.S. immigration courts. Trump also vowed to address crime by cracking down on cartels and protecting law enforcement officers. And he pledged to enhance America's energy independence and prioritize domestic interests through regulatory reforms and his America First trade policy. His second term will focus on strengthening the nation's global position with a commitment to peace through strength, a vision of security supported by military and economic dominance. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And as soon as he returned to power, Trump took little time to press ahead with his aggressive protectionist trade policies. He could be slapping a tariff of at least 10% on China as early as next month. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
U.S. President Donald Trump continues to threaten other countries with tariffs, this time targeting China. On Tuesday at the Oval Office, Trump said he is considering a 10% tariff on China starting as early as February 1st, citing that too much fentanyl is coming into the U.S. from China via Mexico and Canada.
Thinking about that, too. We're talking about a a tariff of 10% on China based on the fact that they're sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada.
This comes after Trump on Monday threatened 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, accusing them of allowing undocumented migrants and drugs to come into the U.S. Meanwhile, Trump announced investment plans worth $500 billion to build artificial intelligence infrastructure in the country. And as part of such efforts, OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle are planning a joint venture called Stargate. During Trump's briefing, SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son, along with Sam Altman of OpenAI and Larry Ellison of Oracle, joined the president. $100 billion in funding has been committed for now, with more expected over the next 4 years. Ellison said 10 data centers for the project are under construction in Texas, with more to come in other states.
Each building's 500,000 square feet. There are 10 buildings currently being built, but that will expand to 20.
And Trump says this project will create hundreds and thousands of jobs.
In the future, a new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
Meanwhile, when asked about whether he's open to Elon Musk buying TikTok, Trump said he would be if he wanted to buy it. He previously had directed the Justice Department on Monday to pause the enforcement of the TikTok ban for 75 days until early April, after TikTok became unusable in the U.S. Trump suggested to TikTok that the United States jointly owns half the company.
With a permit, it's worth like $1 trillion. So what I'm thinking about saying to somebody is buy it and give half to the United States of America, half, and we'll give you the permit.
김보경, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump this week described North Korea as a nuclear power, raising concern that Washington could be moving toward recognizing the regime as a nuclear-armed state. The first Quad 4 ministers meeting since the launch of the new Donald Trump administration also took place, but only to release a statement without their long-standing usual commitment to the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Trump's comment aligned with what Trump's defense secretary nominee Pete Hegseth said when he called the North a nuclear power during his Senate confirmation hearing last week. It's unclear what Trump and Hegseth really meant by nuclear power, but it is true that U.S. officials have long refrained from using the expression. While some experts say it's too premature to read into the phrase, some analysts voiced concerns that recognizing the North as a nuclear state would greatly disrupt the geopolitical balance and potentially ignite an arms race. South Korea's foreign ministry made clear that the North can never be recognized as a nuclear-armed state, adding that denuclearization is still the ultimate goal. The Bank of Korea announced this week that the South Korean economy expanded by 2% in 2024. Now, the weaker than expected growth mirrored a sluggish export growth, poor domestic demand, and the ongoing political crisis from the martial law order. Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
South Korea's economy only showed modest growth in 2024. That's according to data from the Bank of Korea released on Thursday, which shows that the country's gross domestic product, a key indicator of economic growth, grew 2% on year in 2024. This was lower than both the central bank's November forecast of 2.2% and the government's forecast of 2.1%.
After our November forecast, political uncertainty in the country grew, and economic sentiment weakened, which then impacted private consumption. Construction investment also remained sluggish as orders remained weak.
In 2024, private consumption rose 1.1%, which was lower than the 1.8% increase of the year before, while construction investment entered into negative territory. But as exports saw a sharp rise, jumping to 6.9% from 3.9% in 2023, leading economic growth, while modest, to be higher than that of last year's 1.4% on solid exports, a rise after 3 straight years of decline. As for the fourth quarter, economic growth expanded only 0.1% on quarter and was also lower than the central bank's forecast. The central bank mainly attributed this to small growth in private and public spending as well as negative growth in construction investment. This follows an on-quarter increase of 1.3% in the first quarter, negative growth of 0.2% in the second, and 0.1% in the third quarter. With last year's economic growth hovering below forecasts, there are rising concerns about South Korea's economic growth this year, fueled by factors such as U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs.
Korean economy has been dependent upon the international trade and the export to the United States. Multinational enterprise has promised to build a factory in the United States to avoid a tariff, but as long as they make use of some parts produced in China or other countries, they are still subject to the tariff.
The Bank of Korea Monday lowered this year's GDP growth forecast to as low as 1.6% and the government to 1.8% in its 2025 economic policy plans released early this month. 이수진, Arirang News.
Findings for the month of November show a substantial surge in the number of newborns, posting the highest growth in 14 years. Our Choi Min-jung has this report.
Last November saw the country's biggest rise in births in 14 years. According to Statistics Korea, the number of births in November last year was at just over 20,000, up 2,500 births, or 14.6% from a year earlier. This is the highest growth rate since November 2010, when it reached over 17% growth. The number of births has exceeded 20,000 for 5 consecutive months after surpassing that mark in July. And increases were witnessed for November in every province and administrative division of the country. If the current trend continues until December, the annual number of births is expected to see a positive rebound for the first time in 9 years.
The increase in the number of births seems to be influenced by a prior increase in marriages. The rise in marriages between August 2022 and the first quarter of 2023 might have contributed to the subsequent rise in births.
In November, there were over 18,500 marriages, marking the highest number in 9 years and an increase of 11%. During the same month, there were more than 29,000 deaths, resulting in a decline in the natural population of 9,000. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Samsung's Galaxy S25 series is officially out. Samsung Electronics' latest venture into integrating AI into smartphones promises smarter, faster, and more personalized experiences for users. Our business correspondent Moon Hae-yeon explains.
Imagine a phone that knows what you need before you do. That's what Samsung's latest smartphones promise to make a reality. At its Unpacked conference on Wednesday in San Jose, California, Samsung Electronics announced its latest flagship Galaxy smartphones, the Galaxy S25 series. The Galaxy S25, S25 Plus, and S25 Ultra are all equipped with new AI tools unseen in their predecessors, unveiled as the firm's first AI smartphones a year ago. The new models will hit the shelves on February 7th in the same price range as the S24. They use Google's Gemini AI model alongside Samsung's in-house AI voice assistant Bixby and Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Elite chips for on-device processing, meaning that you don't have to be connected to the internet to be able to use AI functions. And these AI functions provide a key element in the S25 user experience, personalization.
With the S25, users can enjoy a seamless experience where the AI, agent and personalized AI features make life easier. Just say what you need, and the phone will recommend and handle it for you.
For example, Now Brief and Now Bar are new services that provide a morning feed catering to your personal preferences based on user data, as well as giving you updates throughout the day, such as giving you directions to your next meeting or giving you a breakdown of the latest sports games you've missed based on what teams you follow. And this is another reason why on-device processing is so crucial, because personal data used to tailor these functions will only be stored and processed on the phone. With many using mobile phones to search the web, Gemini's search tool enables users to look up information from their own images and even videos. The new S25 also makes everyday interactions easier by simply being able to ask your phone to do things. Schedule the launch of the new S25 in my calendar. Schedule it for February 7th. While the new AI features are the main focal point of the new phones, the hardware also boasts some upgrades. The new Ultra line has a 50-megapixel sensor on its ultra-wide rear camera in contrast to the S24's 12 megapixels for better quality images and videos, and also features a new, hardier screen. The series overall has rounded corners with a reduced bezel for bigger display, and there's an even thinner model to come called the Galaxy S25 Edge. This model was briefly previewed at the end of the Unpacked event, setting up competition in the skinny smartphone market, with Apple's ultra-thin model expected to come later this year. 문혜련, Arirang News.
That wraps it up for this weekend. Thanks so much for staying with us. Enjoy your weekend wherever you are.